What's up, guys? We're live for episode 9. We've got Hermie and Robin coming on here shortly. Let me double check and make sure. Yep. And we'll keep a check in, make sure we're good with those two. Looks like we are. Sorry, just double checking before we get started. And let me make sure Hermie's got a new link. And can everybody hear me good? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Can everybody hear me? What's up, Billy? Before we get those guys on, I do the normal now going forward. You guys are going to see the show is brought to you by Delaware Brick Company. Thank you, Sean at Delaware Brick, and everyone at Delaware Brick for sponsoring our show. And we're going to see if we can get some stuff up here for our show to kind of have some background. But thanks, Wesley. But yeah, we're going to get ready to get started here in just a second. And thanks to Delaware Brick for sponsoring us. And I'm excited to have them on board. It's going to be really great having them here. And going forward, it's we'll see what we can do with this show. And hey, Hermie, can you hear me? Awesome. And since we got Hermie on here, we can go ahead and get started. And I want to welcome Hermie on to the show. In 3, 2, 1, there it goes. So, Hermie, thanks for coming on. I know when I started doing this, I've mentioned to a couple people that I really wanted to have you on specifically. I listened to the Zero Analytics podcast, and it was one of my favorite episodes he did. I thoroughly enjoyed listening about Premier Karting, and I thought you had a lot of insight, and I kind of wanted to build off of that. So I think that's what we're going to try to do.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And guys, if you have any questions, just like normal, go ahead and post them in here, and we can get them asked for Hermie and Robin when he comes on later on. So, Hermie, I just to start off. How did you get started in racing?
In karting.
In karting.
Yeah. Basically, many people that know about Premier also know Austin Wyatt. His dad, Danny Wyatt, has worked with my family in our family business for over 40 years. And when I was a little kid, Danny Wyatt was racing go-karts. And by the way, he was very good at it. And Austin and some of the younger kids these days, they see Danny today and don't think or don't know what a great racer he was, but he was bad to the bone and won a lot of races and a lot of championships. And I started out going on the weekends with Danny to watch him and help him. And I'm 8, 9 years old, along in this time, and I was going every opportunity I got. I went with Danny Wyatt to the racetrack, and I learned so much about racing and karting, and then ultimately, I had to have a kart. And but my love for karting, as did my brothers, uh, started with Danny Wyatt going to help him.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I remember growing up at Margarettsville, and we heard stories about just how much of an impression Danny left on people. And after talking to Wyatt, Austin Wyatt, he was on the first show, and I think it really speaks volumes hearing it from you as well as Austin, and growing up around there in Margarettsville, North Carolina, seeing the impact that him and guys like you have had on the sport, and not just at a big level, but at a small local level also. Um, I also heard you mention when you came on the Zero Analytics podcast that you raced at a track in Broadnex.
Yeah, that's where we started. There was a racetrack in Broadnex, Virginia, about 40 miles west of Emporia, where I live, and they had shows every Friday night, and they were great crowds, great racetrack, really small, but that's where we started. And you go up there, and I was, we had 12 to 15 to 18, carts in the junior classes every Friday night, and
Yeah,
so
that
that's where my brother and I both really started, racing and organized, karting was right there in Broadnex. And then from there, we started going to some of the, traveling around a little bit on some dirt tracks and VKA, which back in those days ran asphalt and dirt. And by the way, we went clockwise instead of counterclockwise. back in those days. And then ultimately we ended up doing WKA Horseman Gold Cup races. And then I veered back off and went back over to the dirt when I won the WKA Dirt National Championship in '88. So, but it all started right there at Broadnax, Virginia on Friday nights.
That's pretty awesome. And I remember one of the first times I ever went down to Brunswick Speedway. I remember watching you run, and I'm not sure how long Premier had been around at that time, but I think it was still kind of in the experimental stage. So was Brunswick somewhere that you guys started testing, or did you try and test at a wide variety of tracks when you guys started?
We've done all of our testing basically at Tri-County Cartway in Kenley. That's where Robin wanted to be. Um, Two different corners, one kind of a longer sweeping corner, one a tighter corner. We've been, we have run some things down at Capital City back in the day. Brunswick is a great track, but it's really too open and too fast to really test the things that we like to test. So I remember racing some back, early on at Brunswick, whether it be just to test a cart or verify a cart or ride a customer's cart that had come back to us for an issue, or just going on Saturday night and having some fun. I did that early on when Premier first started. So, but we have done. I don't want to say all because that's not totally accurate, but 90% plus of our testing has been at Tri-County and Kenley.
Okay, yeah, I've ran Tri County once, I believe, and it's a very different kind of racetrack. So I think it's a good track to test on. And I believe also the small pipe clone was something that was still around when you guys were doing some testing. Was there a lot that went into the different pipe clone, or did you try like everything possible? Clone, flathead, animal. Did you try and test that card on everything?
We've run from clones to limiteds. We've done a little bit of all that over the years, and I got to give a lot of people, credit. We're established as a brand now, but we weren't always that way. I remember going as recent as about 3 years ago. We go to a big race, whether it be a Maxis National or a Big O, you name it, and the only premieres at the track were the ones in my trailer.
Oh yeah.
And so really Justin McDonald was there very early on. He was through a friendship with Randy Martin down in Georgia and Robin Bradshaw. We had Justin first, and he did a lot of testing for us when we first started with the V1. And then Robin learned pretty early on that for what we were trying to accomplish and what we were trying to get out of the cart, we needed to pretty early on head towards the V2. So we went through about 7 prototypes before we got to the V2. But in 2017, early 2018 is when we really had the resources and the weather and the testing playing together. And Robin and Austin Banker, we tested. People laughed at us at the time, but Robin said for every 2 times we race, we're gonna test at least once, and that's what we did. We had a very aggressive testing program back in 17 into 18, and that's when we really came on the map and really started to win a lot of the big races and show ourselves in front of the established other manufacturers and whatever. But I give Robin and I give Austin Banker a lot of credit for really taking us to that next level. And then for the last year and a half, we've got now some great distributors and some great group of drivers on our cart. When you can get feedback every weekend from an Austin Yarborough or Steven Adams or an Austin Wyatt or even the kids drivers that we have, and they give all the information for Robin, that's really enabled us to continue to massage this cart that we've got, this V2, and help us look ahead with the little bit of testing we've done with a V3. We've got a great group of people that are team players when it comes to sharing information right now, and that's been really helpful.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys can do with the V3. And you mentioned your junior drivers. I know that it has been truly impressive to see what you all have been able to do in the junior fields, in the junior program. I remember when you all started and you mentioned it was a few guys here or there, mostly out of your trailer. And about 2 or 3 years ago, you'd look at the field of junior drivers, junior 1, junior 2, junior 3, and about half the field was those yellow carts with the Premier sticker on the front of the cart. And it wasn't just the amount of karts that were in the field, because you were racing against phantom karts that were doing the same thing, or many other different manufacturers. Excuse me, many different other manufacturers, and you were still almost outnumbered, but you were able to perform. And those junior drivers were really able to shine. And now I think there's so many that are starting to climb up into adults and things like that, that I myself have to truly applaud you all's junior program.
Well, the kids, well, the main reason Robin and I started this project all these years ago, of course, Robin and I are lifelong friends. And when I was a kid, I had Robin there helping me and was able to use him as a mentor and on the track and off the track, wanting to give back and wanting to help young kids realize their dreams and climb up the kart racing ladder is the number one reason why Robin and I decided, to take on what we were doing. I don't even so, I don't think either one of us ever dreamed that we would be where we are now. We never planned for it to be. We just wanted to build a kart, continue to build our relationship and friendship and race. And it's just kind of one thing's led to another. But I think one thing that we did, and I'll go back to my days at Broadnax, the one thing that we've done that was a plan, and it's probably only part of the performance plan that I can take any credit for, because the rest of it is totally Robin, is I told Robin right on the get-go, I was not interested in building 3 or 4 different versions of a kart. I didn't want a big tube, little tube, big this, little that, senior this, junior that. I wanted us to put our resources into building the best kart that we could build for all of our customers. I wanted the transparency of taking our karts to the track and let's go win this race, and let's let a customer go buy this kart at the track so they know that they've got the best that we've got to give every single weekend, and they can get it tonight and start racing it. I wanted that transparency. So we worked really hard on our kart and the engineering and the tire window of our kart to have a single kart. And the main reason for that was I was not willing, nor was I in a position, nor did I want to stock parts and pieces for 3 or 4 different versions of a kart. And I didn't want, even though we didn't have distributors at that time, looking ahead, I didn't want to force my distributors to have to stock parts for a senior and a junior and a big and a little. And we wanted to have the best kart that we could build, have all the same parts and pieces, whatever that might be. And what we've been able to do we've been basically on this V2 frame, the standard V2 version frame, for 5 years. And we have continued to massage it and improve the components on it and continue to develop it, continue to find speed to it. So what that does for us, we're able to, in some cases, sell a customer a component rather than putting pressure on our customers to feel like they've got to buy a kart every year. And so really that's worked out well for us. And we've still got customers with karts 5 and 6 years old that are winning not only at the local level, but at the state and national level. And that's kind of been our thing. One kart, let's make this one kart the best we can make it. And by doing that, we've put all our resources and development into that one kart. And we've been able to find success across the board, from rookie, junior, on up to heavy, super heavy, and everything in between. It's been a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. And especially, Steven Adams winning that Big O this year, that spoke volumes to you all's program. Still on the V2, but it's still performing at the top level of karting.
And we're not finished with the V2 yet. I mean, as we develop the V3, we still got a lot of testing and parts and pieces ready to test, with Mother Nature. And not only that, that's put a hindrance on testing, but also being able to get karts built for customers. We face some supply challenges just like everybody else has. And so our focus right now has been catching all our customers up that want to be on our kart. We're doing that as fast as we can. Then we'll get back on the testing program. But I think, and the reason I say I go back to my racing days at Broadnax is when I first got a go-kart, my first kart was a Margay Expert 2. We bought it in the early 80s. I'm going to say 81, 82. Bought it from Competition Karting and Robin Bradshaw. And when we came home, we had one cart, one motor, and 4 tires. And we were forced to work on that one cart, one motor, and 4 tires. And me and my brother both, we won a lot of races early on. Later on, when we had more carts and more motors and more tires and more gears and more options, that's when our struggles, that's when you have a tendency to struggle when you've got a lot of options. And so that really led me down the path of not wanting to, have my customers choose which cart of mine should they buy. I want them to buy the one that everybody has, and that's what we've done so far.
Yeah, narrow the options down and make what the specific options that they have the best options that you can provide.
That's
I get
right.
that. So I wanted to go back to you mentioned your brother, and how has your brother played a part in all of this premier karting also?
He's been a big supporter. He's been in a lot of our testing sessions. Him and Danny had a lot of success, way more success than I did in karting. He comes by the shop 2 or 3 times a week. He's given ideas on our chassis, on our aerodynamics. He's ridden our carts some, given feedback, even more so in recent years, last year and a half or so, since he's been retired and been home. And he's a geek just like we all are when it comes to kart racing, trying to find that little bit of an edge. He's also been helpful in he's really involved in iRacing now, and so some of our drivers that race for us are involved with him with his Elliott Sadler esports team. So that a lot of people won't will say, well, how does that help your go-kart team? But anything you can do to bond your drivers together and bond your organization together, create relationships and friendships and trust and all those kind of things, in a lot of ways is the key to having a successful team and putting a successful brand on the track. So you can never have too many smart people. Ultimately, on the performance side, Robin Bradshaw makes the decisions. And what's so great about Robin, we don't go testing and we don't develop carts based on just throwing stuff out there and seeing if it works. We have a plan. Robin had a plan in the development of the V2 with all the experience he had in all his years of doing the laser carts and the LTO. We had a foundation. So we had a foundation to get us to the V1. The feedback from our drivers, Robin formulated a plan to build the V2. With all this 5 or 6 years of feedback from all our drivers on the V2, it's led him down the path that we started with the V3. So we test because we have a plan. And 9 times out of 10, Robin already knows what a piece of engineering is going to do, but we have to verify it on the track. And so that's the comforting thought that I have as an owner of the company. And I think my distributors and my drivers do. They know that Robin has a plan. We've just got to verify his plan on the racetrack, whether it be chassis wise, aerodynamics, body wise, components, whatever the case may be. And that's what we're doing. But it is very comforting to have a guy with that kind of knowledge, not only of building karts, but one of the best drivers I've ever seen, one of the best engine builders I've ever seen. He's got the total package, and he's able to pass all that knowledge down to share it throughout our organization.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you mentioned also the iRacing team, and I think iRacing is a great way for not just junior drivers, but for senior drivers. Or weather. There it goes.
Hey, you cut it
Are you
for a
still
second.
there?
I think you're back now.
Okay, so I don't know what happened there. For some reason, it was trying to restart on me. But whether it's COVID or weather or anything like that, people are able to still get that seat time. And then those junior drivers, they're able to learn from someone like Elliott or from Robin or from Austin Yarborough, Austin Wyatt, people that have been in the seat and they can give them feedback. So I think that's a great thing, a great tool to have. As far as you yourself, I wanted to know that what are your plans in the future? Are you going to try and come back out any and test some more yourself or race some more? What do you want to do?
I've seen too much and done too much in my life to never say never. but that really needs to be done. I really enjoyed that early on, but that was 8 years ago and probably 50 pounds ago too. Uh, and right now we've got such a great team of drivers so far with our V3, Jonathan Cash. He's almost as old as I am. I hope he's listening, but he's done all the driving, as we develop our V3 because, he's much like Robin back in the day. He has knowledge of the carts, the engines, and the tires. That's a hard combination to find. He's mechanically sound, knows how to work on everything. And also he's not an active driver now, so we didn't have to choose an active driver to get more seat time or provide more feedback on our V3 more than another active driver. So what we'll do is we've got about 8 test dates locked in later this year with Jonathan on the V3 chassis stuff, components, then all the new body stuff, all the new aero stuff that Robin has built. We got to go through all that. Jonathan will do all the driving on the test days, and then we'll, when we get to that point, we'll put some carts together and get it to some of our drivers and let them verify what we think we see on the racetrack in testing. Let them verify it in race conditions. That's kind of what we did with the V2. But to answer your question in a roundabout way, I may get a wild hair one Saturday night, go over to Capital City and ride, just to get back out there and ride. But this is a serious business that we're in with this. We take a lot of pride in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and the customer service and the quality and the performance. And it's important now that I stay in my lane and handle more of the day-to-day operation, trying to help us get parts and pieces, trying to deal with my distributors, making sure they're getting what they need, which, by the way, that went a little bit of a lull with that. It's been unfortunate that we've had a little bit of a slowdown in being able to produce carts. We're working hard to get that back, up and going. But like I say, there's so much talent in our pool right now, with Robin at the top, then Jonathan right below him, and then all of our great drivers that can ride these carts and give feedback. We need to utilize those people, and we look forward to doing that.
Yeah, I've chased many of your carts in my day, and they've been pretty hard to beat. Whether it be Blake Washburn, he was a big one that I was thoroughly impressed with. Blake, the way he came about. He had a quick turnaround. Or Austin Wyatt, growing up together, racing with him, I was thoroughly impressed with how he just jumped right into Premier Karting, and he fits so well with you guys. As far as I'll call it the vibe of your team, how well you all mesh together. Has it been pretty easy for you guys? Because you seem like just one big family. No matter who comes on the team, it just seems like everybody's happy and gets along and just is able to communicate so well.
Yeah, and that's been one thing that I've really harped on, regardless of who's been on the team or who's racing out of my trailer. It's got to be a team effort. It's got to be unselfish, and it's got to be everybody, all hands on deck, everybody helping each other. And if it's not that way, then it won't work for Hermie Sadler. It's just, one thing that I've learned from my NASCAR racing days is, the importance of compiling information, the importance of gathering feedback and good, solid, truthful information, getting it back from everybody is the only way we can win on any given Saturday. And it's the only way we can produce the best kart we know how to produce. So, when we've had issues with people, it's come down to, at times somebody being selfish or somebody not being willing to sacrifice for the good of the team or the good of the brand. And, it's too many talented teams, too many talented manufacturers, too many talented tire gurus, drivers, you name it. Is no secret that our success has come from Robin's ability, and I'll give Robin the credit for that, buying into the importance of providing feedback and helping your teammate and helping each other, whether it be on tires or changes to the carts at the track or whatever the case may be. And so far, everybody has understood the fact that, if we all buy in, then, we all got a better chance to win. You don't win 3 Max Daddies in a row by accident. You don't finish 1-2 in the Big O by accident. You don't win the Junior 1 or the Junior 2 Max Daddy by accident. All those things are a culmination of the carts that we can put out because of everybody's unselfishness. And that'll be an ongoing battle, because when people get where they don't win every weekend, they get frustrated quickly. But I think, at least by now, I hope we have proven that doing it the way we're doing it and everybody being unselfish gives us the best opportunity to give everybody a cart that's capable of winning. And then it's just a matter of going out and settling by the tires and, who gets it done on the last lap during the races. That's what we always strive for.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you saw Austin's comment on here. I'm glad to see he's following along. Having a driver like Austin Yarborough come over to your team and just jump right in and go right to the front, how do you think that impacted you all as a team?
Yeah, it's been great. Austin Yarborough is, first and foremost, let me say, I didn't know him that well personally. Of course, I watched him race for years. Been very impressed with his ability, to race, but I never knew him. I got to tell you, I'm more impressed with him as a person off the track, and how he's treated people. Most importantly, our junior drivers, and not really even only the junior drivers on Premier, the junior drivers as a whole. A lot of those drivers look up to him. They idolize him, and he has always given of his time. That's been just as important as his ability to race and to win races for us and give us feedback, help us get better. But let's be honest, he's a difference maker. Um, I'll be the first to sit here and tell you that, he can win in anything he sits in, and everybody knows that. But he has helped us elevate our brand and our equipment to even to another level. And not everybody can, you know, I will say that, he gets in these carts sometimes and drives away. And you don't see that very much, with the quality of the equipment that people have now. And so, but he can take a 10th place cart, finish fifth. He can take a 5th place cart and win with it. And he does it consistently. So we're obviously honored and thrilled. And he and the combination together, Jonathan Cash was looking to maybe step away and maybe not retire full-fledged maybe yet, but to step back and focus more on the mechanical and the engine side and the tire side. And Austin Yarborough stepped right in, and they've been a dynamite combination. And I hope they'll, continue to build on what they're doing. They've had a tremendous amount of success. But Yarborough is a well-rounded young man and very talented, and we're proud to have him on our carts.
And I would absolutely agree. From approaching Austin at the racetrack for an interview for the show here, or when he was trying to work with me when I was having a few issues with the show, and anytime anyone I've seen either speaks to him or works with him, they have high things to say about Austin. So I would say he's definitely elevated you all's program. But you all had such a high level of success, I would say, when he came in, that I think it's more of a keeping you there,
Yeah,
and elevating your R&D program more than anything.
I really appreciate you, bringing that up, because as impressive as the wins have been with Austin Yarborough, Austin Wyatt, Stephen Adams, all those guys, now we've got a decent amount of carts at the track and winning in all the classes. But in 2017, 2018, when Austin Banker was winning on Premier, there were a lot of those races, including Max Daddies and things, that he won on a Premier, that he was the only one in the field, on a Premier. And Austin Wyatt, same thing. I mean, those super heavy races, there's a lot more competition now, but Austin Wyatt, I think, elevated, the eyeballs that were on the super heavy division by, doing what he's done and winning all those super heavy races and the limited races at the Big O and all that. But I mean, I'm telling you, back in 2016, 17, 18, what we're doing now, we've got more bullets in the gun. But back in those days, the only bullets we had are the ones that we had in our trailer. And so those were some really impressive times and days. And I'll go back and say it again. Banker and Bradshaw back in those days, building that cart and doing all that testing, a lot of Sundays they spent putting in a lot of work, and it showed up. That was the 1 year in that time period where we actually, we were hammering hours at the time trying to find tenths of thousandths of seconds of stuff. And the way Robin tests, I know, people that have been at the racetrack with him, testing is very methodical. But it's the only way to, some of these people, they switch go-karts. They have a couple bad races. They switch go-karts. They go to the racetrack and they hit the tire right and they go in and they're like, oh man, this kart is so much better than what I had. You don't, each to his own on how they decide what they want to ride. But everything that we've ever done with our kart has been ABA verification on the same types of tires with no prep, with the same mechanisms, the same testing program, everything. We are completely sure that what we're selling now and what we're racing is the best that we currently have. And we'll take the same approach to the V3. I get asked every day, when is the V3? We're not going to even start producing the V3 until two things. Number one, Robin's got a heck of a challenge in front of him to outrun the V2, number one. Number two, we've got to produce enough carts when we get to that point that all my customers can get one. And we don't have to pick and choose who has one before the rest. But everything that we do, we have verified 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times that this is a gain and this is not. And it has nothing to do with tires. And for us, that's been the only way that we know for sure that when people spend their hard-earned money with us, they're getting the best effort that we can give them.
Okay. Before we go any further, I think Robin's watching. Robin, you can come on and try and get on here so we can get a few minutes with you and Hermie. And I wanted to tell you that you all's program, I did look into Premier if I was to stay in karting. I'm not sure what I'm going to do overall, but your support program is something that's pretty unparalleled. And I think you kind of alluded to that with the communication within teams and the correct information given. And not just that, but the driver status that you all have on your carts is something that is just right now it's untouchable for any other brand. And it's completely impressive at what you all have done in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, what we decided to put our focus on is instead of competing out of my trailer at the track, which we had to do it out of necessity in the past because nobody else had our carts. Now that we've got some drivers and distributors, we've taken our trailer and we're upfitting it to do a parts and customer service support outfit, to be at the racetracks. And so we're looking forward to expanding that as we head into the summer.
Absolutely. And I'm going to check with Robin real quick to make sure he's good. All right. I'm just waiting on him. As far as, I know you mentioned the V3 is not coming out for a while. Oh, there's Robin. I know you mentioned the V3 is not coming out for a while. And since he's coming on here, I can ask both of you, actually. You there, Robin? I am. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. 3, 2, 1. There he is. Mr. Bradshaw, how are you?
Doing fine. I hope that the audio is good right now.
Yes. Can you hear him, Hermie?
Yes, you're cleared up now. Everything's good. Hey, Robin.
Hey, Hermie. Hey, Robbie. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. Doing good. Been looking forward to this, and I hope that we can give some folks some good information and give them an idea of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think Hermie's been alluding to that quite a bit with all the testing and the R&D and things like that. And I think what I want to start with before I go any further with the V2, Hermie, before I ask any questions, how did you guys meet each other?
Go ahead, Robin.
Actually, I've known Hermie since he was in high school. He and his dad came down to competition karting years ago and picked up karts, motors, engines, and I'm sure you heard the story, and it's all true. And we really established a friendship in those years has survived the test of time. And we have a lot of the same viewpoints as far as racing and about life. And we've kept that friendship intact for many, many years.
So I know, Hermie, you've mentioned all the R&D testing. Robin, did Hermie approach you about all this, or did you guys kind of get to talking about it one night and then it kind of just happened?
Well, and Herbie probably told you this in the beginning, but it kind of we stayed in touch for years. Even when Hermie was late model racing, when he was nationwide or Xfinity racing for years, and even Cup racing, we stayed in touch. And then he and through Danny White and Austin White, I'm gonna bring those guys in. I was trying to work with Danny and Austin a little bit with some engine stuff, and Hermie kind of got involved all over again with karting. And we kind of ended up going back to doing some racing up at Brunswick, a couple places like that. But I think the thing that if you go back to 2013, November at Cartersville, Georgia, Hermie wanted to go down and to the Thanksgiving Thunder, so I went with him. We were struggling a little bit. We got hooked up with a guy named Justin McDonald and Larry McDonald, and they helped us with some tires. And next thing you know, Hermie's on a hot rod out. I think he qualified pole or outside pole, ran really good in the race. And if there's a birth to this kart and what we were doing, it kind of started there. I think Hermie, and I'm going to take a minute right now, Robbie, and say something. Hermie Sadler and his family, I'm going to throw Elliot in there and his family. They have a passion for racing, especially Hermie. He is a great ambassador for the sport of karting. And I'd like for a lot of our followers to know that. He has done a lot outside of just Premier Karts to really promote our sport, and he's helped a lot of people along the way. So I want to get that out of the way, because that's something that needs to be said because of who he is and what he's done for our sport. But after that, I want to say that after that, the Premier Kart thing came along. We started talking about a product, a signature product in the sport of karting, and building a chassis came up. And I think it was a mutual. I think it went back and forth between me and Hermie mutually. And I think I'll let Hermie fill in those blanks, but I think that's the way it started.
Is that about right, Hermie?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When I was at Carnesville that weekend, they wanted to blame the driver. We weren't running good, and I told them, no way was it the driver. Man was up on the wheel. We had to get the tires right. Had to get the tires right.
I know that's been a big challenge when it comes to developing a kart. That's something that you really have to have someone that knows exactly what that's been in the sport doing that exact thing. So I'm really glad to hear that it was Justin. Justin's been around the sport for a while. And when you started, did you know what direction? I know Hermie, you said you had a plan, but did you already have the end game of, winning the Big O or getting Austin Yarborough or Steven Adams or those guys like that on the karts?
No, and Robin may have a different opinion, but when we started to build that V1, and then we pretty quickly went to the V2 when Robin started getting feedback, and Robin came to me pretty early on and said, I think we need to make some changes with the feedback I'm getting to satisfy a wider range of customers and things. But me personally, I've never had a plan as it relates to who we were going to get on the karts. All I've ever wanted to do, and I know Robin is too, is let's build the best kart that we can possibly build, make it as economical as we can for as many races out there as we can, and see what happens. And I truly believe that the people that are on the kart now, the Yarboroughs and the Cashes and the Steven Adams and all those people, they wouldn't have come along had it not been for the Austin Bankers and those people. He would have not come along if it hadn't been for Justin McDonald early on. So I think it's been a slow little climb up the mountain. But I truly believe that the reason we're having the success we're having now is simply because our only focus has been build the best kart that we can possibly build. And people have started to migrate towards us to a degree because of the success we had. We talk about friends, and the relationships mean something to some people, but what means the most to people in karting is who's winning. Are you winning? And, we've gotten to where we got enough drivers and distributors now where our winning is making people take notice. And But the success on the track has really guided this whole ship the whole time.
So the last question I want to ask Hermie while you guys are together, I'm going to give Robin a few minutes after, a little while after. What has been your best memory? Hermie, I'll go with you first. What has been your best memory since you've been working on Premier Karting?
My best memory to this point, now we've had so many that have happened recently, but in my opinion, the race that really started to put us on the map was Austin Banker winning the Champ Max Daddy race down at Patriot. Robin, I'm guessing 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I can't even remember now. But what I remember about that race was we struggled all day and had so many delays and this and that and the other that they didn't actually run the race until probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Whew.
And Austin Banker started dead last on our champ buggy. We had the only Premier champ buggy in the race. And I sat in a hotel parking lot somewhere north of the racetrack, Patriot, about 3 o'clock in the morning and watched that race on Race Monitor because I had to be somewhere the next morning. And Austin Banker started dead last and won that race. And to me, that was the first time that, now we won some other races before that. Justin McDonald had some success with us pretty early on. But for whatever reason, that Champ Max Daddy race really kind of solidified and kind of, if my passion could have been, any greater, that kind of turned the corner for me and enabled me to want to dig in that much more with Austin Banker and go through those years of really testing and building our brand to get it to a point where it is now.
Now, Robin, before you answer, I want to let Hermie know that when you said the Champ Max, that I knew exactly which race you were talking about. That was one of the most impressive performances, not just from a driver, but from a team standpoint that I've ever seen. So, and it wasn't against slouch competition. That was the Champ Max Daddy. So I definitely
all of these things have been little bricks, in my opinion, that have, and I'll say it again, Justin McDonald, in the success we had, the Big O, he won a Big O, a couple other big races, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then on to the next one, it just takes a long time to build a brand and like that. And it takes a long time for people to really believe that you're going to be around for the long haul. And I'm really proud of what we've accomplished and all the drivers that we've accomplished it with. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds with continuing with the V2 and into the V3.
So, Robin, now that Hermie's answered, what would you say is your best memory with Premier Karting?
Well, Robbie, does it have to be one?
You can pick one or two.
Well, there's in the early beginning, you have to understand this was a feat, but I go back and I won't take nothing. I mean, Austin Banker winning that champ buggy race was big. I mean, it was in the race he drove with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, and he's won a lot of races on our carts and also races, big limited races. But another race I go back to is when in the early beginning when we started, we didn't even have the V2. We had a V1 kart, which was a little different. It had its pros and cons, but I remember when we went to the Big O that race, I believe it was 2014. We went to Nice's, and I remember we had maybe 5 or 6 V1 karts there, and we went there. Justin McDonald was kind of our head guy, and he really had a good tire program for that track and for that race. And I remember him winning the limited race. I think he finished second in the open race. I think Hermie won super heavy, and I know that we had a couple other guys that sat on poles and ran good, and it was like that race there was like an eye opener for me. I think we probably got a little spoiled in the beginning because I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I've been around too long in this game, but that weekend was a big weekend for me. I remember Hermie in Victory Lane. He was from the super heavy win. He was smiling, and to see that man on a cart win a race of that caliber, I mean, it just did my heart a lot of good. So, Austin Banker, hey, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've got to throw everybody in this pile. This whole thing that we've done for going on basically 7 years has been a culmination of a lot of people, a lot of talent, and no way we could be where we at without from the people that build our chassis to the people that have rode our cars, that have did so well at the track with us. It's to this point, but life goes on, and we meet new people, and we move on the sport, and we're trying to take this cart. We're trying to carry it further in the next few years to come. We got a lot of challenges in front of us, but I'll be honest with you, and I think Hermie touched on this earlier. We have the talent pool and the people, to do it. And I know that's a long, drawn out answer to your question, Robbie, but it's just, it is. I think that's the true statement of it all, though.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And Robin, I think we're going to go ahead and let you get a few minutes. I'm sorry, the glare is right in my face. Give me one moment here. There we go. I think we're going to go ahead and let Hermie Robin get a few minutes. And Hermie, I need you. I wanted to ask, can you save me a Premier shirt? Because all the good things that I've heard today from your brand, I would love to promote your brand. You're a great brand ambassador, and everything you've done for the karting industry, from junior karts to senior karts, and working with Robin and all the R&D, how hard you guys have worked. I'd love a shirt. So if you set me one aside, I'll gladly wear it on the show or wherever else. So until then.
Yeah, that's no problem. We'll save your shirt. I appreciate the time. And I just want to say one more time, I don't say it enough. There are a lot of reasons why we do this, but the main one is because I love Robin Bradshaw. So y'all have a good time. Thank you, Robin, and I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thanks, Hermie. All right. Well, that was a pretty good intro to the show. Now I'm going to have a hard time following up with some great questions for you, Robin.
Okay.
So after hearing what Hermie had to say about all the R&D and everything like that, I know the things I've heard about you are a little bit different also, from your engine building to the driving to all the work you put in off the track to make sure that these carts are the top of the line carts that people are going to get. So what for you over the years has changed from transitioning from a motorman to a driver, or however the transition went, and now trying to primarily work on the R&D program on this karting team?
Robbie, I kind of lost you on the audio.
Can you hear me?
Barely.
How about now?
No, you're still kind of way.
A little bit better now?
Nothing.
1 second. How about now? Can you hear me?
Back.
All right. I had to change my microphone. It was on my headset microphone.
Okay.
So what does the transition look like for you from going from a driver motorman into a chassis R&D man working with Hermie Sadler? What does that transition look like for you?
Well, it's really something I've really done most of my life. If you go back to the early years, and I really don't like talking about myself. I really don't. I really give credit to people around me. I mean, I'm gonna start off with it. I have a great wife, my wife Debbie, and I have a daughter Crystal, and they supported me in this sport. And trust me, this sport has taken a lot away from them over the years. But I try to. But I had such a passion for it at an early age that when I actually started in 1976 working for CKI, and my passion at that time was kart racing. It led me into engine building, kart design, kart building, and really that was that was the beginning of everything. So, and it's what I truly enjoyed. In 2006, I kind of stepped away from karting, pursued an opportunity I had in NASCAR, which I still do today. But as a whole, I don't know, building engines. I got to do a lot of testing, Robbie, with different tire manufacturings. We built a lot of chassis back in the day, the laser carts that were kind of synonymous with CKI, and it just that knowledge and everything. And I told Hermie this, that there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of testing I did with a lot of great people back in those days, that it was kind of a waste not to use it again. And this has opened up that door to work with Hermie on this brand to kind of bring some of that back. And, you know, my passion is still there for it. And, you know, there's no, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but there's no greater thrill in my life than to hear or see or get a text or a phone call from a junior, from a dad, or even a mom after a weekend of racing that their son won or really ran good, sat on the pole, finished second or third, and just, you know, it's like, if there's a reward of that racing now, for me, that's it. But to go back and answer your question, Robbie, it was really, I spent my life doing what I do now as far as karting goes. So, you know, and I just really wanted to share that with our customers now. But the transition is not, to me, it's like natural. I mean, I've always had a niche for engines. I don't get to do it like I used to because my time is more consumed with working in the NASCAR field. But every chance I get, I like to sit down and really put a lot of thought, a lot of time into kart ideas. I try to talk to some of our drivers now about chassis and about karts, what they feel, what they like. And you know, we've had our test here lately as far as manufacturing, but one thing me and Hermie have in common is that I want to build, you know, not only a really competitive car, but we want to make sure we got really good quality, and we want to make sure we got really good repeatability. And Hermie's left a lot of that up to me to make sure that we get those things done. And even now as we speak, we've got things in works for down the road. You won't, you know, what we're working on now, we won't see it for maybe another 1, 2, 3 years. But the things we see today are things that we worked on 2 and 3 years ago. So, you know, with that being said, I personally, I think we got a lot to offer people down the road, and I'm really super excited about it.
I'm really glad to hear that. And also, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you saw the comment on the screen from Chris Beasley. He said that you're one of the smartest people he's ever met in kart racing. And I've heard that from so many people. And the passion that Hermie brings and the ambassadorship that he kind of presents, I think you guys make one of the best teams out there. And I think that the two of you together, along with the combination of everything, but the two of you together was going to be a hard combination to beat anyway, because the dedication that you both have to the sport of karting and to developing good quality equipment is something that is really hard to find. That level of dedication is really hard to find, I think, now. But I think my next question is going to be I kind of asked Hermie about the V2 and things like that. So I don't want to be repetitive with you, but what do you remember your first race in karting?
My first race?
Yes.
We got to go back a few years for that. That I actually drove in?
Yeah, we'll go with the driver, as a driver.
Well, it was a long time ago, but you know, it was kind of my first race, and my first time on a track was many years ago. I won't even mention the year, but it was a little asphalt oval track that actually my mom and dad ran, and I got to run it was a used kart, a used engine, and other than driving a yard cart in my early, when I wanted, you know, probably 8, 9 years old, I finished third in the race. I think there were 12 or 15 carts in it, and it was a used car. And after that, I was hooked, you know. And it was a rough car, it was a rough A-bone car. And anyway, towards the end of that year, me and my dad, my mom, we saved enough money, and I actually bought a new Margay car, a brand new engine. And at that same little go-kart track, it was towards the end of the year, they had a big 50-lap race. And I think we didn't qualify. We had a qualifying heat. And I won my qualifying heat, and I won the 50-lap race. And it was a kart, and it was a brand new set of tires on the kart, and it was a brand new engine. And it was like the greatest feeling in the world. And after that, I was kind of hooked. It was fun, and at that time I couldn't study or learn enough quick enough to fulfill my passion for the sport. So I worked hard at it, and over the years, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And in 1976, I went to work for competition karting. Dan Klutz hired me, and that was back in the heyday of most of that back then was two-stroke racing. So, and then in 1978, the four-cycle phase came, and it really kind of started in this area of North Carolina. I mean, we were basically taking, Briggs and Strattons, we were taking Clintons, we were taking anything we get our hands on, running, modifying cams, using Tillotson carburetors, anything we could find, and building modified engines at that time. And then it kind of turned into the stock flathead. And me being a two-cycle guy, I wasn't really fond of it in the beginning, but I quickly adapted and really, had a lot of fun building the engines. It was, but that was the early days, and it just, like I say, even today, if there's a blessing I've had in my life, just the people around me, is that I have been fortunate to work with a lot of really smart people. I mean, even today, at RCR, I work with a lot of good, smart engineers, and if I don't care what age you are, I have never stopped learning, and I learn something every day from people half my age. So, and if you can attribute technology today from the things you've learned over the last, say, 40, 45 years, it makes a really big database in your mind about what you want to do with stuff and how you want to go about it and what you can do to make what you have better. And that's kind of my, thing. I look at this chassis as an opportunity for Hermie and for all of our customers to really try to carry it to another level to make them more competitive, because it is a competitive sport, and there are so many great chassis builders out there, so many other great drivers that we have to really work hard. And I may be talking to future customers, but I can tell you this much right now, Robbie, is that Hermie's passion for this sport, and he's told me this many times. He said, I want to do what we can do with this chassis. I want to try to make it the best we can make it. And he's kind of left a lot of that to me. And I've tried to surround myself with really good people from manufacturing. If you look at, and like he said earlier, Robbie, if you look at this pool of drivers we have, if you look at the Stephen Adams, you look at the Austin Yarbroughs, if you look at Austin White, Chase Williams, you look at all these guys that we're fortunate enough to have on our carts. I want to make sure that while we've got this talent, this pool talent that we have right now, that we can do some really good things and let it trickle down to every customer that we have. Because like I said earlier in this broadcast, there's nothing that makes me happier or Hermie than for a guy to send me a text, a message, or a phone call and just tell me how he did this past weekend. And when they don't do good, we had two guys in that shop, in Ken Hodge and Hunter Bailey. Those two guys, I can't tell you what they've done to this program, because those guys are at the track. They're putting their heart and soul into so much of what we do and getting information to the customers, and they do an excellent job assembling carts and stuff. And I get a lot of phone calls and messages from people say, hey, I spoke with Ken and Hunter today. I just want to let you know those guys are first class. They really have helped me and done a lot for me. So, and here again, the thing about me, a lot of times I'll start mentioning names and I'll leave somebody out. So, but all the people that help us, that work with us, they know who they are. And I appreciate each and every one of them.
Yeah, and the program has grown so exponentially. It's hard to cover everybody, but I know, as you're mentioning the program and the different people like that, they know. And just to be mentioned by Robin Bradshaw, or even to say that you don't want to forget anybody, that it's an important thing that you guys are working on and you've grown together. So, and by the way, your wife said it was 1972. I guess that was your first race.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah,
But yes, it was, and it was a long time. I've been blessed to be able to do this for a long, long time in my life. And like I said, the people that I have been with and associated with over the years, they have that's been a blessing in itself. So, but my main goal right now is to, not only do just cards, but I really want to try to create some stuff for our program that will benefit our customers. I think, and like Hermie said, we are, and I don't get into a lot of in-depth testing. We're going to do things a little bit different in our next set of tests, but our test is going to be a little bit more in-depth moving forward. And I want to make sure that we're not just, I don't want to get in a situation where we change something just to sell something. My goal is to, if a guy buys something, there's a reason for it. And there's a reason that it can do something different for them, and that they're happy with the product when they get it.
So a little bit of a change of pace. I had a question that I wanted to ask you. Being around the different types of karting and now working with RCR, what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten throughout your career?
It's kind of right. It depends on if you look at it as a life value or if you look at it from a racing value. One thing I've always been hard on myself about proving something to myself. And there was a guy that worked at our engine shop. I'll mention his name. His name was Gary Patterson. And I work with a lot of great people at work. Very smart people, very intelligent. I listen to all of them. They all have a expertise or a talent in a certain field. And if you hang around a lot of these people for a long time, they grow on you a little bit. And I've let them, and that has happened to me over the last 15 years there. But Gary Patterson put a little tag on an office door one day, and it basically in a nutshell, it says that, one test is worth 1,000 opinions. And basically what that means to me is, instead of getting 100 or 1,000 ideas or opinions or theories from different people, what this would do or that would do, let's do one test and let's prove it. And that's something I kind of live by now.
I think that's really good advice. And I know we mentioned your start in karting. We've covered Premier karting. Do you, working with RCR and working with Premier karting at the same time, what kind of balance are you having to find between, transitioning NASCAR during the day and covering kart racing or helping out with kart racing whenever you're doing that?
I think for me, my job now is basically in-house, so I'm at the shop pretty much 99% of the time. And when I go to work, it's business for RCR. It's making sure that everything that I put my hands on or that I'm affiliated with is done to the best of my ability, and that we don't, we try to make sure the performance is there, but also the durability. And I think that's key in NASCAR racing. And then when I'm away from that, and actual time, I kind of flip my hat when I drive. I got about a 30-minute drive to work back and forth. So driving home, I kind of flip my hat 180 degrees, and I basically start thinking about kart stuff, and try to draw, everything that you've learned, no matter which field it is, whether it's NASCAR or go-karts, and try to put everything together. And when I said a while ago that, I've been fortunate my whole life to be around a lot of smart people, and I'm talking about smart people in kart and in NASCAR. And and some of the time you just got to take the positive you see on both sides of that coin and incorporate it into what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's what I try to do with this kart brand. And here again, none of this kart would not be possible if it were not for Hermie. And I know I keep saying that, but Hermie is just, if you knew him like I probably know him, the guy is he's a tremendous father. He's a tremendous husband. He's a tremendous friend, and to see what he's done in his career from racing to broadcasting, and it was just and his passion, like I say, the passion for the sport. But here again, I keep bringing back things, Robbie, that we've already talked about, but it's just, it weighs a lot on my heart to make sure that Hermie gets some recognition for everything that he does for the sport.
Yeah, and I think Hermie was doing this kind of the same with you, that he mentioned your name quite a few times, and I noticed you've mentioned his name quite a few times, and I think that shows the level of respect and the level of teamwork and the high level of that you think of each other, that you carry of each other. And I also believe that that's part of the reason that you guys have been as successful as you are, and will have the great success that you all will carry on into the future. Before we get off of here, Robin, I wanted to ask you too, is there anyone that you've, as throughout your career, that you would say maybe you've taken under your wing and you've taught a little more or anything like that, or that has stuck out to you and has been kind of, I guess, maybe kind of like a mentor? So I'm going to repeat myself. A mentee.
Somebody that's been a mentor to me, or me to them?
Or yeah, you to them. I'm sorry, a mentee to you.
Okay. It's I don't know. When I see a lot of these young drivers and stuff, I don't try to. They are so focused at the racetrack. I really don't. I might ask them questions about this or that, but it's basically pretty simple. And I probably try to take the information they give me and turn it into some type of mechanical terms of what we can do to make this better or whatever. But if there's someone that there's been a lot of kids, young. Well, I call them kids, but they're actually grown men now. But I've had people, and I think they meant. I think about some guys in my life that drivers, and there's a handful that come to me. If you go back to the CKI days, I think about Mike Dow. I think me and him, we kind of helped each other. I think about Kerry Parnell. Kerry was he is a wonderful million guy. We both mentored each other, and then I look at a guy probably like Austin Banker. He's a great young man, and these kids, Austin Yarborough, these guys now. I mean, I'm impressed with these guys. I mean, Stephen Adams, what I've gotten to know him, and I'm not saying I'm mentoring to them, but they kind of mentor me, and it's kind of a mutual deal, and it's been fun, man. It's been a fun ride, and I hope we make it go further.
All right. Well, I think we're right at the end here. Is there anything that you wanted everyone to know, like any kind of news coming up? I know Hermie said the V3 is not coming out for a while, or any kind of plans you wanted to talk about before we get off of here?
Not really. I mean, I think Hermie pretty much has covered that, Robbie. I'll add that we are working on we're working on doing things differently, from manufacturing to performance. And and I think I mentioned this a little earlier. You want what we're doing today. It's not something you're going to see in the next month or two. It's probably things you'll see in the next 1, 2, possibly 3 years. And I think they'll be good. I think people will like what we're doing, and we're trying to be efficient. We're trying to be better in a lot of different areas. And I hope that we can keep the people we have, happy, competitive, and I hope that the people that are watching, that they're going to buy a car, would consider us and would be glad. We're small, like I said, I mentioned a couple names a while ago, Ken and Hunter. We're small, but those guys, like I say, they put their heart and soul into helping people. They're racers themselves, and if you need anything from anybody, I say call Ken or Hunter, and they'll get a hold of me, and anything that we can do to help anybody, I always try to do it.
Well, I can tell you right now that if I stay around the karting world for a while, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up on Premier after talking to you guys and hearing about Hunter and knowing Austin Yarborough and everything else on here. But I think right now we're going to go ahead and close the show out. And I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on here. And I wanted to say thank you to Hermie too. I don't think I got to thank you before going off, but I really greatly appreciate both of you guys coming on and talking about Premier Karting. And I mentioned to you in messaging, when we were messaging, that this is for everyone to be more approachable and to open up everyone to the karting world. If you haven't, there's people watching from the asphalt late model world, dirt car world, everything like that. And And I want everyone to be more approachable across all platforms of racing and get to know other people. So that's kind of the goal here. And having people like you and Hermie on here has been a real pleasure. So thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robbie. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. Thank you too. See you.
Bye. Well, guys, that was a pretty incredible show with Hermie and Robin Bradshaw. I hope you all enjoyed. And maybe we'll get them back on the show down the road to talk some more. I could have talked to both of them all night, to be honest with you. That was pretty amazing. And thank you, Larry, for watching. It was a great show. And I thank you guys for following along and commenting and liking. And this is fun for me. So I'm having a blast. And we're going to get ready to announce our first guest for next week here in just a minute. But, again, thanks to everyone. And thanks to Hermie, if you're still watching, and thanks to Robin again for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to both of you. It was incredible. And Keith, all of you, Billy, that followed along, appreciate all of you. And it was great. So without further ado, our first guest next week, it's going to be back on Thursday, and our guest announcement is still going to be on Monday. We're going to be having Mr. Joe Scarborough on for episode 10, first guest. And tune in on Monday. Most of the time, it's Monday afternoon. So for our second guest. And can't wait to talk to Joe, just like we did with Robin and Hermie. He's a great ambassador for racing and things like that. He's an author. You can read his book, You Want to Race. And, there's so much we can get to know about Mr. Scarborough in the meantime, and just do a Google search on the guy. I'm sure there's so much that's going to come up. But until then, enjoy this show. It's going to be on podcast form, hopefully tonight. And it's also probably going to be on YouTube tonight. Like and follow the show. And I think next week we might have a cool announcement for you guys on Thursday on the show. So we'll try to, if it's not Thursday, it'll be the following week, most likely. But until then, I'll see you guys on Monday, and thanks everyone for tuning in.